Hello, it's Doc for the ReadySetCrypto Premium Newsletter Market Update for Tuesday, November 27th. We are seeing a little bit of a big cap rally here with 45 minutes left to go in the trading day. We're starting to see some pretty big volume coming in as Bitcoin comes down here into the 3,600, 3,500, 3,600 area. A lot of volume showing up here. This is good. Anytime you see volume, that means disagreement of the price. Anytime you see volume, this is disagreement of price. This is more going to be characteristic of some type of support coming in, or at least a reaction here. So if we go over to something like Ethereum, a lot of what we saw in Ethereum was as Ethereum got destroyed along the way last summer, we didn't see much volume. A lot of this just came on very low volume, and occasionally we would see some peaks along here, but that just led to a flag. And we didn't see any real support until we started to see big volume coming in. So that's big disagreement there on the volume. And again, we're getting more disagreement here, even bigger volume on the price. So coins like Monero, again, showing big volume showing up here. Again, big red volume, smaller green volume. This tells me that we don't necessarily, it's not over yet, right? It's not over yet, but we might be starting to see at least a reaction. Now, we can start to see a little bit different perspective here if we look at the weekly charts. The weekly charts are showing us, just the extent of the destruction that we had from the consolidation, big energy showing up here. Let's go over to the chop into Bollingers and show that, seeing the price go below the Bollinger Band. And even on Monero is not weekly exhausted yet. But if we go up here to Bitcoin, we are in weekly exhaustion. So this is one of the few rare times in the history of Bitcoin that we actually have downside exhaustion. We didn't have this. We have not had this since 2014. It's been 4 years since we've had downside exhaustion. So we had two downside exhaustion signals here during the bear market in 2014. Both of those created a significant flag pattern from those. So significant flag pattern. Let's kind of shrink this guy down here a little bit, and we can see what's going on here. So flag pattern is generally going to be something where you see the price thrusting down, and then you see a reaction back off of here, which is going to be relatively low slope. So it's not going to be, this is not a flag, right? This is not a flag. That is an instantaneous reaction right back up again. Even this is not a flag. Instantaneous reaction right back up again. This is a flag. This is a flag. This is a flag. This is what we're talking about. So this is what I feel is going to be next for a lot of these large caps, is that unfortunately, I don't think the carnage is over yet, but maybe the initial reaction down is. We might see it flagging out and a retest of the breakdown. I don't know that we're going to necessarily get a move all the way back up to 6,000 or not. A lot of people writing in lately going, hey, can I put an order in up at 6,000 to sell out of this thing? I'm done. And that's what creates the overhead supply that causes those types of tests to fail. It's interesting that people become their own worst enemy in a situation like that. So what I'm talking about here is that if let's go ahead and expand this out a little bit so we can get some perspective. If we see the price bounce back up, again, sometimes you'll see these. I think this one is a little bit deep. I don't expect this to bounce this far up and then come back down like that. I'm expecting more of just a small muted flag in this area like this until the exhaustion goes away, and then the overall trend will kick in again. Remember, rule number one of price action is that larger time frames dominate the trend, and they will continue dominating the trend until we get rule number two, which is reversals come from the inside out. So we'll see a reversal happen from a smaller time frame and start pulling this up in a way that's not a bear flag, and this is where the reversal might be. So if I had to take a guess, and I hate doing this because fortune telling is not what we should be doing. We should be looking to react to what the price is giving us right now. and not playing this fortune teller game. Because the fortune teller game, what it does is it creates a bias, and then you cop a belief system, and then basically what happens is that everything that all your senses tell you to go look for that confirmation. And that will make you blind to actually what is happening. But if we could throw out a crystal ball, this is what I would expect to see for this bear. At some point, we're going to have a pretty strong capitulation event. And maybe this is it. Maybe it's not. Doesn't look like it to me. But it's going to be, some kind of screaming move down. And then the initial phase of this is going to be over. And then we're going to be left with kind of garbage time. Garbage time in the NBA is like when one team is ahead by 40 points and they're just throwing in the subs and just trying to get the game over with, right? So it's going to turn into garbage time. It's going to be range bound, up and down. Every time the price goes up, everybody's going to get all excited and start, lighting up the Twitter boards and everything, and then it's going to fail again. And it's going to go on like this for probably longer than you'd want it to. It will test the duration and the patience and the endurance of everyone out there. But eventually what will happen is when people quit looking for this to rally, it'll take off. And by this time, most people that jumped on the board back in the end of 2017 will be gone. They will be off chasing some type of guaranteed return in something, but they won't be on this rally. So the true believers will be rewarded when they wait for this. And this is what I want you guys to wait for, is to wait for things to start heading higher. Don't buy the dip. Buying the dip means is that the price will continue lower until people stop buying the dip. Because the reason why the price continues lower is because all these weak hands keep buying the dip here, and they immediately, as soon as it doesn't work out, they're hitting the bid to get out of this thing. And that creates the orders. All these weak hand orders are coming in there, pushing that lower. And this is why it gets really frustrating near the bottom here. So don't be one of those. Don't be that guy that buys the dip down here. Wait until things start heading higher. I know it makes sense, and I know it's really hard to do right now because you see this thing heading down there and like, that's got to be the bottom. And guess what? It may not be. I mean, we saw plenty of assets over the years go to zero. And who knows? It's not for us to judge as to whether or not one of these coins will go to zero. That's for the law of supply and demand to figure out. Okay, let's go through these really quickly. Let's see, we already looked at Monero. So some of these are actually doing okay. So some of them, let's see, we talked about this one yesterday, and actually we put a portfolio ad into yesterday's newsletter for this one. So we are in half of our position on NEM. This is a nice breakout. I love the base. I love the reversal. I love everything about this. This looks really good. And it's coming from a fairly high energy level. So this is a good example of how a new trend starts. And I love the volume. The volume's good. It's not great, but it's good. And this could be one. You never know. I mean, we're seeing some of these altcoins just kind of lift off the bottom, even though this is not necessarily an altcoin. So we are getting some pretty good moves, like Zilliqa coming off the bottom. Okay. Starting from the bottom, I don't like to buy stuff that's down on the bottom. I don't like to do bottom feeding. But we have some other ones that are up here. Let's see. 0x is starting to, nah, it's not there yet. So we do see a lot of green in today's market. Here's on Zcash. And Zcash has got a lot to repair on this chart. Again, I don't like buying right off of the bottom. I like to see something moving into higher highs and higher lows. Show that it can wear that pair of shoes that's called an uptrend first before we send it out the door. So guys, just in summary here, what we're going to be doing is I believe a lot of the top 20 is, going to go through it's going to be rough times. Bear markets don't just turn on a dime. They got to shake everybody off first before this thing is going to rally. And it's going to be difficult with a lot of these top 20 coins. Some may not make it, right? So we'll just have to keep our eyes peeled for the ones that are showing that the business case is just not there. What we will also look for are ones that are lifting off the bottom. So I looked at the screener today. Not much is going on. We have Meta. We've been watching this one for quite some time. So really not much of an altcoin rally today. Today has been mostly top 20. So I do believe it's going to be a trader's market for the next maybe 6 months or so. Not an investor's market, but more of a trader's market, trying to find these swings coming off the bottom. And what will happen is they'll be good for a couple of entries and then they'll fade just like everything else. Couple of entries, then they fade lower. And then the money rotates to other things. It's going to be a trader's market for a while here. That's it for today's report. Thanks for listening. See you soon.